Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some Tales from the Front Desk. Our first story today comes to us from CXTX3, the would-be valet thieves. Let's jump right in. So, last night was wild and I'm still processing it. It's nights like last night that remind me why I so desperately want out of this industry, but alas, until I can find something that pays better and isn't as customer-facing, I'm stuck here for the moment as I need the healthcare. I've spent a decade in hospitality, so I have a few stories to tell, but in my 10 years, I haven't experienced anything as coordinated as this. Last night was a full-on blitz. So I work overnight at the front desk of a large metropolitan hotel. Between COVID and civil unrest over the past few years, occupancy has, of course, taken a nosedive, and it's also affecting staffing levels. One former guest who left a review remarked that staff at our property seemed overtaxed and unenthusiastic, and frankly, that assessment was spot on. At one point during the pandemic, I was doing about 8 people's jobs for the price of one, but that's another matter entirely. Last night, we just had myself, a night porter, and 2 security guards. Normally, I would also have a PBX operator and a proper guest services agent. I'm a supervisor, though effectively just a glorified GSA at this point, but budget cuts. Oh, and also, we have an engineer on staff, but he was not involved with this incident. It all started when a very suspicious, methy looking young woman came off the elevator with some bags in her arms, and mentioned that the guests in room 5XX were very loud and sounded like they were fighting. This was at about 3 a.m. I thanked her for letting me know as she headed out and called security on the radio that I had received a noise complaint regarding room 5XX. I typed room 5XX into my operating system, but curiously, no one was assigned to that room. Even more curious, there was only one room occupied on that floor. Just as I was about to call security to let them know it might have been the wrong room, I heard one security officer on the radio call the other to meet him down in our garage because he saw someone on the security cameras down there prowling around the cars. Now, we're valet only, and there should not have been anyone down in the garage at all. How they got down there was a mystery, unless the guest elevators had been unlocked to the garage, though normally that floor would be locked off to guests. Security quickly bolted for the elevator, and then it hit me that maybe the girl was trying to have me call security away to the 5th floor as a distraction so that whoever was down in the garage could use that opportunity as a smash and grab. After a thorough patrol of the garage, security did not find anyone down there and were not sure where the person they saw went. When security returned, I mentioned that there was no one listed on the 5th floor and that the noise complaint may have been a distraction. I had a weird gut feeling about the girl, and so he took a look at the cameras to see if we could get a good picture of her. Now, all we needed to do was identify who she was, because she may have been in connection with someone trying to break into cars in our secured garage. There have been a lot of car break-ins in garages in the area lately, as well as stolen vehicles. It's like Mad Max on the road in our city right now. We've got problems. I looked at some rooms on the 4th and 5th floor that could have been hers, checked what time those rooms had checked in, and had security cross-reference that on the cameras to see if any of the guests checking in at those times were her, but none were. Now, was I sure she was even a guest? Some time went by and things were quiet, and then at about 4 a.m., a lot of things happened all at once and very quickly. So quickly that parts of it feel like a blur to me even now, and it was difficult keeping focus. First, my night porter had brought up a vehicle for a guest from Valet who was on their way down. He left the keys for that guest at the desk with me, as he had to go down for a second car for another guest who also wanted their vehicle brought up. Right as he had pulled up, the woman who told me about the supposed noise complaint came back in from outside, notably empty-handed, as her arms were full of bags earlier when she went out, and behind her, I saw 2 gentlemen, one that matched the description of the gentleman that security had seen on camera in the garage earlier. I called security and mentioned that she was coming back into the building and the guy was with her, but she was the only one to come inside. I stopped her and asked her what her room number was, just so I could note it about the noise complaint. She quickly muttered, "Oh, well, we were on the 4th floor, but had to go to the 5th floor to get some ice, and it sounded like they were just playing really loud music on the 5th floor. She did not give me her room number, and her story changed, just like that. She made a beeline for the elevator, but before I could further probe her, another guest came up to me and just started talking at me about wanting to check out and get a receipt, which pulled my attention away. And I realized it was the second guest who wanted their vehicle brought up. I let them know my night porter had just brought up another vehicle and was going back down to get theirs now. At that moment, several more things happened at once. I hear my night porter exclaim, slightly panicked, "All the valet keys are gone," over the radio. Security is running to the elevator and calling for backup. The first guest who called for his vehicle, whose keys I have, comes to grab his keys. I hand over his keys as my night porter comes in, not sure what to do. He mentions that he saw the chains beating on the gate as if someone were trying to open it manually downstairs. I have him stand at the desk for a moment, grab my radio, and run into PBX to look at the camera. And someone is trying to drive a vehicle up the entrance ramp, but can't make the turn properly. It's a tight one-way corridor, and they're trying to go backwards, and I hear security call to the police. I run back out to the desk, hit the panic button, it usually gets the police here faster, and call 911. I explain what's happening to the dispatcher with my radio still in my other hand, and my night porter right in front of me. The guests waiting for their car are looking confused, and another guest has come down hoping to check out and needs a luggage cart, but is going to have to wait. I find myself relaying information between the dispatcher and security with the phone in one hand and radio in the other. I see police pull in up front, and a couple more police cars go by. I've told them where the entrance and exit to the garage are, and that's where I'm assuming they've gone. Security is down on the ramp, and the suspects have ditched the cars since they could not get past the gate and have retreated to the stairwell to use the emergency exits to run out of the building. The police catch and detain only one of them, while the other three, one of which was the woman who was the distraction, escaped down the street. Since the guy they caught is not one that we have on video and did not have keys on him, and was seen fleeing the building with the others, we got him on trespassing, but that's it. These guys had scouted everything out in advance, knew where everything was, and moved fast. This was coordinated and calculated. The only thing they could not get past were the gates. Somehow, they gained access to the back of the house, broke into the valet box, stole all the keys, and tried to steal the cars. I called my manager at home and told her what had happened, and security called the general manager. My manager, who was amazing, was flabbergasted, but thanked me for the heads up and would follow up when she arrived. After that, we found 3 sets of keys and later a 4th, out of 12 total. 8 were still missing and never found. We compared the keys we had to the valet list, and the second guest who wanted their car, who was present in the lobby for the entire ordeal, did have their keys, and were fortunately very understanding of the whole situation. Most guests were understanding, but any frustration about the situation is totally justified. I had one gentleman who was very upset, understandably, and I comped his entire stay. I believe we may have comped every room that was affected, but I wasn't here when all of that unfurled throughout the day. I believe the cars without keys had to be towed to dealerships of the guests choosing to have new keys made, and all of this would be covered by the hotel's insurance. I still left the hotel in the morning feeling beat. The real nugget? My GM is the least human person. He does not care for the health and safety of staff or guests, but that's another story entirely. All he cares about is the bottom dollar and appearances. Did he thank us for our suspicions, or our quick thinking to make sure that the vehicles themselves were secure, or that we caught the culprits on video, or that we were able to mobilize fast enough to get the police here while the attempted burglars were still actively burgling? Did he show empathy or gratitude that none of the actual cars were stolen? Nope. All he wanted to do was lay blame to someone, punish someone, and ask what we could have done differently. F this man. There was nothing that could have been done differently. We reacted as swiftly and safely as we could have in real time in a confusing situation. All protocols and procedures were followed. The keys that were stolen were locked up in a secure area. We did everything right. This was a coordinated attack by people who knew what they were doing, and nothing could have stopped it. And truthfully, almost anyone can access the back of house area in a hotel, any hotel, if they can access an emergency stairwell or service elevator. Once someone is in, they can go basically anywhere. And if there's any lesson I've learned from watching YouTube videos from the lockpicking lawyer, it's that basically any lock can be broken or picked in seconds by someone who knows what they are doing and is determined to get in. Rather than praise us for our efforts to stop criminals in action, my GM was looking to punish us for this even happening in the first place. GM can pound sand. To his credit, I shouldn't have expected anything positive from him, as nearly all of my interactions with him, as well as others' interactions, have been largely negative. He responds to emails, reply all, typically in all caps with accusatory language, in the most unbecoming and unprofessional way that I've ever seen from a GM ever. But alas, so there you go. We've upped our security measures today, the gates are remaining closed at all times, and keys have been moved to a more secure location. But it's still been a crap show. Now, as if that story wasn't enough, OP added an edit at the bottom. It says, "Girl, she came back tonight. The sheer audacity. She walked in, tried to hide her face on her phone toward the elevator, and I stopped her. You were here last night." No, I wasn't. Wasn't me. I just got into town. I'm just going up to my room. She continues to step toward the elevator. "What is your room number?" "6XX. Types the room number in. "Miss, sorry, that room is unoccupied. What is your name?" "Well, it's my friend's room. It's not under my name." "Sure. What's your friend's name?" "Jamie." Types name, no hits. "Sorry, I don't have anyone registered under that name." "Maybe it's under her boyfriend's name. I'm on the phone with her. Can I just go up?" "No." "Well, can I just wait over here?" Continues to walk towards the elevator. Grabs the radio. "No, you can wait up front. Your friend can come down or call me from the room." She and I both know there is no friend and there is no room. She mutters incoherently, "Okay, well, and she turns and heads outside. I call security as she's leaving. I mention it's the same girl and describe her new outfit. Tonight, she's wearing a stolen red hoodie with the security ink tag still on, just under the hood. She's also got a little empty backpack with her slung over one shoulder open. Security was out in seconds and followed her outside. Ironically enough, a cop car happened to pull around right as she went to cross the street. She spotted it and immediately bolted. The cop car decided that was a good reason to pursue her. Hilarity ensues. One thing I found funny about this story was that when the crap really hits the fan, that seems to be when everybody really needs your attention. OP mentioned in a comment down below that they were only at like 9% occupancy and they hadn't seen any guests all night, and it wasn't until the crap hit the fan that they started getting needy all at once. I think anybody here who's worked in retail or in hospitality knows that feeling, that when the crap hits the fan, it really hits the fan. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from Kawanaki. Night audit training gone wrong. Let's jump right in. This particular day, I was training a new night auditor and all was swell. The restaurant and bar was busy that night, but it all quieted down near midnight. At approximately 1:30, I receive a noise complaint from a guest stating that they are hearing what sounds like crying, vomiting, and slamming doors coming from their room. Great, I thought. This will give me a good opportunity to show my trainer what to do when we receive a noise complaint. I relay the information to our security, who has unfortunately been coming into work drunk, and ask for them to knock on the door. We take noise complaints very seriously and don't bother calling ahead of time since, well, they're already awake. Thinking this is over and done with, I return to my routine of watching phone until it is time to actually do the audit. We don't start till 3 in the morning, but I hear security state that he is not receiving a response from the guest. Knowing him, I doubted that he even knocked and proceeded to inform him that we, myself and the trainee, will head up to take a look. We arrive, and due to the experience I've gained throughout my 8 months at this hotel, knock as loudly as my 5'8", 20-year-old body can, and ask loudly if they can answer the door. I am met by silence, but upon closer inspection, hear the shower running and no other shenanigans occurring. I tell the trainee and security that it seems like they've quieted down and that if we receive another complaint, we will come back up. The three of us head back to the front desk and I, again, begin watching my phone intensely, waiting to start the audit. 15 minutes pass and we receive another noise complaint for the same room. As before, myself, the trainee, and security guard head up and I, again, knock very loudly to no response. At this point, my spidey senses, if you will, began tingling, and I follow with, if you do not answer the door, we will be forced to call emergency responders to ensure everything is alright. Again, no response, which is a big red flag. I call the front desk manager and state that we may need to call emergency services for this guest, and he gives me the all clear to enter the room beforehand. I expected this and had already made a key and called for security to witness me enter the room, as I have no clue what is happening, and I am of the opposite sex of the guest. I inform my trainee to stay at the desk, as I don't know how long this will take, and we, security and I, head up with the latch tool. To all those who have not worked in a hotel and only lurk, yes, we have a tool to open the latches from outside the room. I again knock to no response. I unlock the door and am greeted by the latch, to which I then yell into the room, "Ma'am, can you please come to the door?" Nothing. At this point, my spidey senses are full throttle and am expecting the worst. We undo the latch and open the door. Oh no. The moment I enter the room, I glance over to the shower, which is still on, and see legs on the floor. I immediately yell at security to call for 911 and throw my jacket to the ground. Security grabs his radio and says, "Security to front desk, call 911. I yell at him, "No, grab your effing phone and call the effing police right now." And I get to work. The guest is on their back, face up, in the shower with it still running, choking and wheezing, with what can only be described as semi-coagulated bloodied vomit on her and around the shower. I ask very loudly, "Are you okay, ma'am?" To no response. I then ask, "Do you need help?" very loudly, and am greeted again by nothing. She's unresponsive. I shut off the shower and drop to my knee to check her pulse. Thank the stars she's still alive. I roll her into the recovery position and place my finger back on her carotid artery to maintain feeling of her pulse in case CPR is necessary. While keeping security out of the bathroom as to do my best to protect her privacy, I give him information to relay to the dispatcher. Now the waiting game, which consisted of checking the person's pulse and breathing while waiting for a professional to take over, and me trying to calm myself down as I was beginning to have a panic attack due to the time I was assaulted on shift a few months back. The police arrived at the room with my trainee, whom I promptly sent back down to the front desk, as I didn't want more people to be in this small room. And while one tagged me out, as he phrased it, the other began searching the room. I joined him in the searching of the room, where we found significantly more bloodied vomit, as well as prescription medication, multiple empty wine bottles, and a loaded pew-pew. I began taking pictures of these items and the room for any potential legal purposes while we waited for an ambulance to arrive. This took, and I'm not exaggerating, 30 minutes. And all we, the two police officers, security, and myself could do was listen to this person struggle to breathe and choke, all the while praying that this person doesn't pass away. The ambulance finally arrived, and they were able to place her on their gurney and took off just as quickly as they had arrived. The police left with them, bringing the pew-pew with them for safety purposes. I called the front desk manager and informed him of all that transpired, and afterwards went home to shower and change as I was covered with bloodied vomit. When I returned, the police had returned to gather statements from me, my trainee, and security about all that had happened, and also gave me the case number to pass along to my manager and the general manager, and they also informed me that she is doing all right and should be okay. At this point, it was approximately 3:30, and it was time to begin the night audit training. Well, it seems to me like OP might have had a little bit of basic first responder training. They came upon an unresponsive subject, they made sure 911 was called first and that the professionals were on the way. They checked if they were breathing and had a heartbeat, and they did, so they put them in the recovery position and stayed with them to make sure they didn't get worse, and they only started panicking when there was nothing else left to do. OP, you're a hero. Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.